Yeah, you might have to start projects so that you stay agile, man.
Yeah, I know. Mono develop. I was about to earlier today, but then the mono develop scrolling thing happened, and it so threw me off.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry about that.
I just want a fix for it.
I think we're broadcasting, so that's cool.
That's fine.
Yeah, I hope I did everything.
Oh,
I didn't actually go through the...
I could check the stream if you'd like.
Yeah, check,
just
just
go over
see if, why not?
To the YouTubes.
The YouTubes.
Ooh. Why don't they change... Oh, they should do that for Halloween, but they aren't that bright. They should change it to BooTube.
BooTube. Oh, God. Probably already exists.
BooTube.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry about that.
I just want a fix for it.
I think we're broadcasting.
I think we're broadcasting.
I would say we're broadcasting. Sweet. All right. You want to call it a pseudo episode at this point?
Yeah, it's Casual Sunday.
Casual Sunday. All right. Hey guys, welcome to Casual Sunday. That's it.
Yeah,
I'm done. I'm checking out at this point.
I'm Phil.
Yep, Phil's here. So it's so casual that I called Phil in, but actually I called him in. This is more like you came over more like, hey, do you want to come over and hang out? Not like, hey, do you want to come over and do a show?
It wasn't like there's not the same pressures.
So it's a different type of thing. We're just kind of showing. I'm just going to show off some stuff and probably implement some stuff, and I'm probably not going to talk as much as I usually do. I might. I don't know. Don't hold me to either, but don't be surprised in either. And I just want to show the input manager that I've been working on, which has grown into this project that I'm actually kind of happy with. But I still have a ways to go before it's complete, quote unquote. So let me just go to the screen and we'll just start looking at things. So I've got more buttons here. You may be familiar with this project from the 2D sessions and stuff. Is anyone watching right now?
It said that we had 5 viewers, or more than that. I don't know. Something. It doesn't tell me that.
Somewhere between 5 and not 5.
Freaking screen does not help me. Oh,
yeah.
There are people. BooTube is free porn.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Good to know.
Sweet. I mean, no. And it's a Sue episode.
It's like pseudo episode.
Studioed.
A soupisode.
We aren't going to have any soup, though, tonight.
That reminds me of that stupid pun from Drawn Together with the super salad. And I'll get you super salad. I said soup or salad.
That's just funny.
It's so stupid. So what I've got here is I've got this little quote-unquote input manager, and it's kind of blown up, and it's not complete. Actually, I need to write down a bug real quick. We want to put menu button does not work exactly like a normal menu button. It counts itself, this is a note to myself, as down when it is actually when the finger is off the button but still on the screen. And I'll explain what that actually means in a second here. So I've got this thing, and it's fancy. It's got input definitions, and originally I had it as this kind of like monolithic input manager thing that was alongside the input manager, and I realized I was making kind of exactly the thing that I hate about the input managers that people have put online. I want something that's just stupid simple and works really well. And so I kind of changed the way that you access this. It still uses a lot of the same concepts that it had before, but I've reorganized it a little bit. But basically, it goes through and you define additional inputs that you want to access via buttons. And I'll kind of show how it functions. Actually, maybe I'll just show how it functions first. So we've got this script called PushyButton, which is my simplified interface into this system. And you attach it to whatever you want to be a button. So like say you have a button here, like button A and button B, and you've got jump button and shoot button. And you tell it what input you want it to generate when you press this button. and then it functions exactly as you would expect it to, as if that button had been fired by a joystick or a keyboard event. And so what I mean by that is, in our code here on player character, I've got PushyInput.getButtonDown jump button, and PushyInput.getButton laser button. And both of these are mapped to Fire 1 and Fire 2, so that's a little confusing that there's an additional mapping, but that's because we had it so that we could adjust this to different inputs. But so we have this, and so it's checking for that. And so if I get the jump button like normally, like I've got a jump button on Z, and I've got a shoot button on X, and those still work, just like you'd expect. But additionally, I can click on B here and get my shoot things, and I can click on A and I get my jump. And I don't have to do an additional OR, I don't have to do an additional check, I don't have to do anything. The only thing I had to change was, instead of checking input.getButton, I check PushyInput.getButton. And the reason it still works with the old manager is because I went to the trouble, and it was more trouble than it should have been, of wrapping, like making a legitimate wrapper for the input system. And what I mean by that is, I can type basically anything that you can do with input. So if I do input dot whatever, like acceleration event count, acceleration events, any of these things in the list, like input.compass. I don't even know what that does. Well, I kind of know what it does now because I had it implemented. But you can also do PushyInput.compass. It's there. All of it is there. And this wouldn't be a real big deal if I had just subclassed input, like it would just automatically have all this stuff and pass it through. But unfortunately, Unity has seen fit to use the sealed keyword on their input system. And what I mean by that is, if we actually look at the assembly here, so if I go into input and just right-click and choose Go to Declaration, we get into our assembly browser, which you don't get to actually see how things are implemented, but you get to see what's actually accessible. And you can see right here is public sealed class input. And what sealed does, and I hate this keyword, and it shouldn't exist, but it does, it makes it so you can't subclass it. It makes it so it is not okay to subclass it. Like, I can't just do a... Like, what I would have started with before is, instead of subclassing it based on mono behavior, I'd still have a mono behavior portion of it, but I could subclass it based on input. I could just be like, oh, this is an input thingy, and then hit save, and then I would have access to all the functions, and then I could override the ones that I needed to override. But I can't derive from sealed type Unity Engine input because it is sealed. So I'm really proud of things that, and the only reason I'm proud is because I had to spend extra time on them. And it's just because it was organized, that someone was like, it should be sealed. People shouldn't subclass this. It's not what we intended people to use it for. That's actually their excuses. It's not what they intended people to use it for. And that's kind of against what they usually do. They try to be as flexible as possible in Unity because they want people to have the ability to do what they need to do. But they also want to make things easy to do, and they want to direct people to do things easy. And I understand that portion. But if there was some version of like a warning type version of sealed where it's like, you really shouldn't be doing this, but we'll let you, I'd much prefer that to what ended up happening, where I basically went through every single thing that this thing does. And so acceleration, okay, if you want acceleration, just return the input.acceleration. If you want acceleration events count, and I had to make sure that like input acceleration, you only have a getter, so I didn't only did a getter, but like this one has a get set, so I had to make sure it was a get set. And so this is all the properties here that I didn't change. These are just exactly the same. And then here's all the methods that I didn't change. They're exactly the same, but I had to write them all down, even though they're the same. But they're all there, so now it's actually a legitimate wrapper. So you can literally do find, replace, PushyInput, and everything will work just like it did with input. But then you get my additional functionality. And so the additional functionality comes from the few modified methods that are here, which are the getAccess methods, getButton methods, getKey, and getKey methods. And so basically, what these methods do is they coexist with the existing methods. And so if a button is being pressed on one, it will generate the methods as appropriate. And if it's pressed on the other, it will still generate the methods, and it just ORs them together and returns a proper Boolean result. Or in the case of the getAccess stuff, it returns a proper... it adds the inputs together, and then clamps them between -1 and 1.0 range. And so So it's a lot of work to get what I had going, but it's going and it's awesome. And so all you need to do to actually add anything to it is just add this tiny script to the button itself, and then give it a type. And I've got a few different types here that are kind of sort of useful. The types here are, and I'm going to be adding one more type at least. But the current types I have supported are push buttons, which work what you would expect for most touch input games. So a push button basically works like when you... Let me actually do the button down. That's a better show. I'm going to switch the... Actually, I'll just do it on the... I'll do it on the shoot button. So the shoot button is set to on button. So that means that any time that the button is active, it does something every frame. So it just shoots every frame at this point. So if I have it as a push button, if I click on it, it shoots. If I click on it and move off of it, it stops shooting. And if I click off of it and move onto it, it starts shooting. So it's only when you have your finger on it that it's active. And this is also how I set the axes, the button axes to work. So that's what these do. Because you're going to be sliding your thumb around, and you want it to just... Oh, I got pushed through on the fire thing. I should move that up so that I don't have to worry about it. But yeah, so you can actually slide your finger around, and you'll get what you want. If it worked in a different way, it wouldn't work quite so nicely. Like if you had to be on it on the start, that means that you would start here, and then you slid back, and you wouldn't start moving the other direction, and you would stop moving or something. And so then I've got menu buttons, which work, although I have a bug in them. That's why I just wrote a note to myself. They're supposed to work exactly like a menu button. Let me find something that generates a menu button. I'll just do save. No, save as. Open scene. All right, so open scene. This isn't a good example. I'm just going to shut down. There we go. So shut down. This is so dangerous to put this on the show. I've got 55 seconds to explain this before my computer explodes. So if I click on cancel, it's down. If I click away from cancel and click onto it, it doesn't go down. If I click on it and go off of it, it's not down anymore. If I release, it doesn't generate an up. And if I click on it and it's down and I go back over it, it stays down. And then when I release, you get an up. So it's actually a very complex behavior that most people don't really think about. But there's a lot of complexity that goes into just a simple menu button on an operating system. So this one generates just like you would expect out of a menu button. And then I've got this in-between called hold button. And this one, this is interesting because you actually implemented a hold button in your game, even though we had never really discussed it, but it just was intuitive to do so, right?
Yeah.
And so what this does is it makes it so when it works just like the push button. So like if I start off of it and go onto it, it starts. And if I start on it, it starts. But if you hold it down, it continues to hold afterwards.
Mine actually, if you hold before and then slide your finger over, it does not work.
Okay, it does not work that way. Okay.
You have to very specifically press that button. But then once you have it pressed down, they keep track of that finger.
I might make it a fourth type that does that too. Then maybe. But depending on case. Now the reason I did it this way, I'm going to switch to video here. What is the video thing? Just the face, I guess, is what it's called. Because it's usually my face and not just necessarily video. Is there a way I can flip the view? Because I could probably go like this and show it. And then actually be able to play it, but it would be upside down. But then I could probably flip the...
I would think that there would be, but...
Here, let me see if there's invert or something that I can do. Some magic here. Image overlay, resizer. Can I resize to a negative size? Target width.
Oh god, look at the
yeah, it's doing something. Stretch.
It's
weird.
Smaller now.
I don't trust this.
I don't trust this at all.
Yeah, this isn't so good. Image overlay.
Image flip.
Left, right. Image. Wait, where was it?
I thought LR flip. Sorry. Maybe there's a UD flip, an UD flip. If there's an LR.
Upside down. Perfect. There we go. All right, magic. So now I can probably show you guys and actually have my buttons working. It'll be confusing for a little bit.
Australia.
Yeah. Yes, that's how Australians look. They're all upside down and stuff. No, it wasn't. That was definitely not a joke.
You need to move it down more.
All right, and I'm also going to have to lock my screen so it doesn't flip around on me. There's so many things that can flip here. Nope, not what I wanted. Double tap.
It's not being helpful to you right now.
Oh, what? No. Oh, Unity. Bad Unity. I didn't realize you did that wrong. Okay, so Unity has a bug. It's amazing. So their bug is, so you see how this thing flips around automatically because we have it set to flip automatically? It actually, iPhone actually thinks it's in portrait mode. And the reason I know this is if I go here and lock it, it goes portrait orientation locked. Oh, wait, never mind. That's, why did they start doing, didn't they have this? Okay, bad apple. Never mind. It's not Unity's fault. So for some reason, you can only lock the interface to portrait. You can't lock it to whatever you want. I don't even know what I'm going to say at this point. So it's going to be hard for me to actually show this. Let's see what we can do here. Can you? Can you guys see? There you go. That's as good as I'm going to get. So the way it works is I can start jumping, and I can actually start shooting, and then jump by sliding my finger around. So it slowed down because there's so much blood when that guy dies. So I can actually slide around and jump around. And so I can actually kind of like hit with the corner of my thumb and act like it's a real button. And jump around.
That's cool.
And so it actually feels like real buttons now because we've got a hold button concept here. And the reason I went loose on it is so that you can just activate it.
No, I think that's good.
But yeah, it's... so that's enough of the fanciness there. Pleased that we were actually able to do that. So go back to the screen. And so that's what a hold button does. And then the other types here are positive axis button and negative axis button. These ones function like push buttons, but they generate axes information. And therefore, like D-pads being converted into axes. Now, the type that I definitely want to add, that's not in here yet, is a full-blown analog stick type. I just have to figure out how I'm going to organize that. And that one will work more like, we've got these in the, what is it called? In the graphics that we got from, where do these come from? Where did I put them? Textures?
That's a good question. Maybe.
Oh, there I did. I put them in there. So, there's like these analog sticks. Where are the sticks? So like there's a stick that's like this, and then it has like a background, I think, maybe, or maybe this is okay. So you've got these sticks where you put your thumb on them and then you move them around like that. That's what I want to make next. That's not supported yet, and that's definitely going to be in there. I was going to ask
about that.
Yeah, so that you have real analog type stuff. And you could clamp it just like you do normally to make it a digital thing from an analog thing if you prefer the feel of it or look of it better. And then the other thing I want to do is it may just be a different another option on this probably rather than just a whole different mode. But I want to make one that where instead of it being placed on a position on the screen, it just appears under your thumb when you press it. So
those
that you can,
cool.
So you can do it from anywhere.
So then you could just judge the
radius
and that one,
yeah, exactly. And that one you set an area to generate those things. So if you wanted to do a dual stick game, you just basically set up two big areas on the left and right, and then wherever you put your thumbs would be
that'll be cool.
The analog sticks. So those are things that I'm going to be adding. And the other thing that I want to add that's not related to specifically what is possible with this thing. I'm working on an anchoring system, and that's what I'm actually going to be working on right tonight. Where basically, the problem is if you have... Actually, do I have a good case here? No, I don't have a good case here. If you have buttons, you want them to stay... Like, if you have buttons in the corner of the screen, you want them to stay on the corners of the screen. And the other thing I want to fix is I want them to actually stay the same size, depending on... No matter what device you're on, I want them to be thumb-sized, which... If you look at a lot of games in the stores that support both iPad and iPhone, you'll notice that most of the time the iPad buttons are slightly larger than the iPhone buttons, even though they really shouldn't be.
Oh yeah, that's something that I accounted for, isn't it?
Yeah, it is something you accounted for because you actually have two separate interfaces, one for iPhone, well, three separate interfaces, like you do it the separate interface way. But I want to make one where it will automatically just be right on things, and because there's not really good ones that do this yet, and I'm going to be doing DPI calculations. I'm going to be doing some assumptions, And additionally, I'm going to have some options so that they display properly on the screen, so you can even check thumb size on your screens. What makes this difficult, though not terribly difficult because some of the information is here, it would have been really, really hard if they didn't have it. There is a function called screen.dpi. This was added in the Unity 3.5, and I'm so thankful it's in here. And what this returns is the dots per inch of your screen, which means that you can all of a sudden, potentially, make things that are based on physical world size, because you have an inch calculation, you have the dots per inch, and you can figure out things based on your resolution, how far a pixel is. And then we can take that information, and so everything will be the same size forever on every platform.
Oh, that's cool.
Now, it would be super easy if it just magically worked on all platforms. It does not magically work on all platforms. It sometimes returns 0. If it returns 0, that means that it didn't work on your platform.
Wow.
And it returns 0 all the time in the editor. It never knows on your screen.
Know.
And there's a reason. It's kind of hard information to. It's not a standard thing to query on the device capabilities. It's not something that people thought to add in device capabilities, even though it's incredibly useful. And so what I'm going to be doing is it's going to use the DPI if it's available. If it's not available, it's going to guess as good a DPI as I can. It's probably going to default to 160 on mobiles. And then I'm going to have an option when you're on your computer where you can tell it how many inches your screen is. And then that's the only information that's missing. As soon as you give it that information, it can calculate exactly what an inch is. Because I have the resolution and I can do, Pythagorean theorem and figure out the diagonal pixel distance, and then we know the pixels to inch ratio. So so that's what I'm going to be working on tonight. And then that will be... I think that'll be really cool to have this anchoring system, and then we'll be able to anchor to either corners or the sides or the middle of the screen as appropriate for whatever type of control you're making. And so that's what I'm working on mostly tonight. Although I'm probably going to fix this little bug here too. And do we have any questions or anyone?
I don't know. I'm looking. I'm trying to.
No worries.
Put in a single time.
No, they're not under any.
That's a lot of apps.
So 30 page of apps. Oh yeah, not 30. It's like 9 pages.
Saw whose face? They see my face? I don't know how. You
must have gotten in there a little bit. Maybe you reflected off of my screen or something.
Oh,
on
possible.
This. Yeah. Oh no.
Possible.
Oh. But yeah. Yeah, I do have a lot of apps, and they're horribly unorganized, and not half of them, but 10% of them are
a lot of apps.
10% of them are just random Unity projects that I just test once and then I just never delete them. So I probably should clean it up at some point, but the thing is I almost always use search at this point just because I've got so many, and most of the apps are also just games and stuff, so it's not something that's mission critical.
The opposite of me.
Yeah, you run a tight ship. Yeah. That's 3 pages,
that's
nice.
3 pages. Last page is all games.
Yeah, actually, my iPad is much more organized. It still has a huge amount of apps, but it's actually organized in some way. Those pages meant nothing. They just are spaces that have apps on them. But on my iPad, I've got kind of my own game section. I've got my music application section. I've got my art application section. I've got my random stupid apps that I can't live without section. And then I've got the game section is just folders because there's just so many of them.
Well, I have
more, and then I've got my catch-all games afterwards that I haven't organized.
Yeah, my phone is just full of music for the most part.
So
scrolling through because I hit the refresh button again. There's
I hate
so many things
Stupid
that irritate
YouTube.
me.
Stupid YouTube. All right, so but basically, I'm going to go over kind of the magic that's happening behind the scenes when you set this thing. So when you put one of these pushy button scripts on here, what it actually does is in its start, where is pushy button? I need pushy button. In its start function, and I've got some commented out stuff when I was working on Anchor stuff, but it's not done yet. All it does is if it has a collider, it adds it to the input definition, and if it doesn't have a collider, it gives you a warning. Hey, for this to work, you need a 3D collider on this. And I specifically check for 3D colliders because, if it's not a 2D collider, because this does not work with the 2D system. It's not intended to. And because it still works for 2D games just fine. The reason I didn't go with the 2D stuff is because the line cast stuff is designed for line casting across the plane of action. And what I mean by that is, like, line casts are for if you want to check between this guy and this guy. It's not good to check between, like, the front of the screen and the back of the screen. It's not something that you'll get because you don't have a three-dimensional component to it. So it has to, because it uses raycast, it has to work with the 3D collider. That's just the way it works.
Yeah.
So there may be some way I could have done 2D collider. I might look into it later, but it didn't seem worth it, and it's just super easy to just say, hey, give me a collider. So so all this thing does is, it looks so simple. It's just like, oh, we want a new input definition, and the name is the input name, the type is the type, the button is the collider, and then we add it to the pushy input using the add virtual button thing. And so then you go into the pushy input here. Do I still have my start function? I actually don't need my start function anymore. I'm going to get rid of it.
Do you have it in here?
I do. I'm not doing anything else fancy, right? Okay, so this was originally where it did all the parsing and stuff, so I don't need this anymore. Boop.
Yeah, I'm probably not going to be on the ball nearly as much with my...
checking comments. Okay, well, I'll occasionally go peruse the site then.
No, I'm looking every once in a while.
Well,
I just won't be as instant.
Okay, all right. So people be warned. We're, as I said, casual Sunday. So don't stress if we're not responding to people.
How hard would it be to make a web page style navigation? Say page 1 has 2 clickable links, which brings you to another page. Each page is on a plane with text and images and font.
It's pretty easy. Although, admittedly, if you're going to be doing that, I would strongly recommend you hit the asset store up. And this is expensive, but it's worth it if you need this. And there's a system that allows you to basically bring up a web page in the game, and that way you could actually build everything as HTML if you needed this type of functionality. It wouldn't be hard to set this up, honestly, if you just have a basic case. But if you do actually want more, where is it? Which one was the one that actually works on mobile and everything else? It's not any of these. Web. Let's see, web. Actually, browser. Let's see what we got. If I can find this thing again.
I do not know this thing. So.
Web. I will have to find this again later.
So something that basically,
but there is
takes
basically
the HTML and CSS
and generates. It actually shows a web browser like you as a 3D object, and then you can just place it places, and it just works. I forget. It may need Unity Pro to operate though. Dang it.
That is possible.
That's probable. So it's probably not a good option for if you're just doing a basic thing and you're a starving student or developer, which all of us are. And that's the reason we have day jobs. That's the reason.
Bobby Kotick. But Bobby Kotick does that for a living, and he just likes making money.
Yeah.
And milking Call of Duty.
Yeah, well,
and Tony Hawk. And
well, no, I'm talking about the little guys.
Yeah, I know.
The little guys like us.
Like,
that being said, I mean, like we're not starving because we have day jobs. But if we didn't have day jobs, I'd be sitting here with the cup rattling it.
Yeah,
like I did it. You saw me do it. I feel bad about it actually. I feel bad about asking for donations on the show.
Well, I was a starving person when I made my game.
Yeah.
Though granted, it didn't really give me any food money, but that's
yeah.
Okay.
Our games don't make it. Yeah, that's the reason that we're starving. If we were making like you know, what is it? Notch money. You got to get that notch money.
Yeah.
Yeah. No.
He's saying like basically that there would be no web connecting, just a web page faked in Unity. I think that's what you were describing.
That's what I was describing. Well, I was describing so you could do actually both on that thing, which is pretty cool. You could. But
you could have HTML objects.
Yeah, we could use the input manager to do like next page, and it would just open up the next scene or something. Like you do it scene by scene, and that's super easy. You just do load scene, and then you just have navigation.
But if you
scenes.
wanted like a 3D object, that was the web page.
Then that's trickier, and if you need that, then you're gonna buy Unity Pro. You're gonna buy this package, and you're gonna be super happy with it. And like seriously, like we were considering it for a project at work actually. which is the reason. And I'm sorry I don't have. I think it's called Coherent UI. Might be the name of it. That might have been the one that doesn't support mobile. One of them supports mobile. I think it's Coherent UI. Let me try that actually. The main thing was the main reason I didn't look at it a bunch before is because it didn't support mobile. And as far as I'm concerned, bringing up a web page in a Unity game that's on a PC isn't that useful. But bringing up a web page on a device that can only run on one application at a time is incredibly useful, potentially.
Yeah.
So let me see if it was Coherent AI. I think that Coherent UI. I think is what it was called. So yeah, so there's Coherent UI. Oh, and it's gone up in price. So Coherent UI Mobile is $100. I think it does require. Yeah, it requires Pro. And they claim that it requires 1 license per seat, which that's stupid of them, but whatever. So if you have 3 people working on it, I guess
it would be
technically you would need
$300.
$300. What I would say is if you have one UI guy, you get him the seat, and then you just swear on oath that you never have touched it with it. No one else has touched the input manager but him. So that's what I would say on that. But yeah, so this is this basically allows you to display a web page, and they sell it as a UI solution, so you can actually just implement your stuff as UI. But it actually does allow you to bring up external web pages as well if you want. You can also disable that functionality. It's not like that without modification they wouldn't be able to access that. So yeah, use a fully featured web browser. But yeah, what you're talking about would be super simple. You would just basically set something to check, get button down, chain next page, get button down previous page, and then you would set previous page and next page on the buttons, and then you would map that to application.load level, and then have some manager for your pages or something. So
neato.
So what am I going to work on? So first I want to fix this little bug. Well, this is going to require device testing. I think it'll be easy to fix though. So I think my logic error is I don't want input over here, so I want this to be false. Wait, no, but I don't want it to be false in the case of... Alright, so if input dot type equals input type menu button we want input to over to be false in this case, and else in this case we can actually assume that it is input type hold button.
Hold button.
So we'll do input over equals true in this case. True. Should probably be explicit. No, I'm not going to. I'll fix that up later. And then additionally, I need to make sure to set it to false if... So that sets it to false if I'm not over it, but it needs to be set back to true if I am over it. So I need another else if touch.phase equals touch... What's the one here? Moved or stationary. These two. These are important ones. So if we do these, we want I'll just grab all 3 of these. We definitely want up set to false, over set to true, and down set to false. There we go. I think that'll actually fix that bug. Let me see though. I'm going to have to actually test this. Oh, I can actually... Oh wait, that doesn't... That's just the touch portion. Hold on, I also have the mouse emulation portion. That's the other thing, is I have the mouse emulation section, which is nice. So on this one, we need to make sure that... Let me switch B to be a menu button real quick. Just make sure that it's operating the way I think it is. And it's not. Oh, wait, it is. It totally is. But it shouldn't be operating that way. So let's fix this on the mouse side. I need the case for when it's not over it. So if there's not a hit, oh, and I have a bug here too.
No bugs are no good.
This else statement shouldn't be here. It should be somewhere else. Else should be somewhere else. Because hits.length could be greater than 0, and those hits could represent stuff that is not buttons. So I can't make that assumption here, which is the assumption I'm making. I need to make the assumption somewhere in here. So it's if it contains the key.
Is it the gatekeeper? Maybe the key master? No?
For each hit and hits.
They're really dumb jokes. I apologize for that.
It's okay. I wasn't really listening.
Just Ghostbusters.
I know. I was listening that much, but
today you knew it was Ghostbusters.
I knew it was. I heard Keymaster, and that's Ghostbusters. That's all that goes on in my head when that happens. So, so for the hits and hits, if the hits length is greater than 0, so it really should be if. Oh, it shouldn't be an else at all. It should just always happen. I have version control on this, folks, so if something goes wrong, I can actually fix myself.
We've told people how to
use
version control before.
We've told them how to turn them on, but we haven't really explained how to use version control, which is something I really should spend an episode on, because version control is actually one of those the best kept secrets of computer programmers, because I really think that version control should be a concept that every single person in the world knows about that ever uses a computer for anything, whether you're an artist, whether you're a programmer, whether you're a guy that makes videos, whether you're a guy that, anything. You should know about version control because it will save your life someday.
Yes.
And like if you're a writer, writers need version control, and they commonly don't have it. So and I'll show you kind of how that works. But basically, so let's see. I probably have broken a whole bunch of stuff now. Let's see if it generally works still. Okay, it looks like it generally works. And then now I need to make sure that so input.over. So I need to make an if statement. If input dot type equals input type dot menu button. Then we do input dot over equals false, and otherwise else. Input dot over equals true. Now if I hit save, hopefully the mouse thing will work the way I expect. So I want it to be down when I'm on it. Oh, I totally broke it. Yeah, that's no good. That's no good. So, oh, because this is not, okay, got it. Because I'm making the wrong assumption here. So it's if I'm no longer over it. Alright, let's back it up here. I'm not going to fix this other potential bug, but I'm going to write it down. Else statement on mouse emulation may have a bug if a collider exists that is not a button under your mouse. that. I guess I just write notes to myself in the project stuff because I'm only working with myself on this one, so I know where to read them. So what are we doing here? Oh wait, unpressed buttons. Maybe it's here that I actually want to do it. If it's unpressed. Alright, actually this is where I want to do it. This is a safer place to do it, I think. This thing's kind of gobbledygooky right now, and it's not because I'm in progress of changing it, it's actually because I did an optimization pass on it, and the optimization pass made it very unreadable. I know that sounds really stupid.
Did it?
But yeah, it did, because originally I had this as an iterative variable system, so what I mean by that is I just had a list of all the inputs, and I would just go through the whole list of all the inputs and check to see which ones had been hit, and I'd do a second iteration over the whole list to do some other stuff. And to optimize that, I made it so that the list is actually accessible via a bunch of different ways. And I have a separate list so I maintain the buttons that haven't been pressed, and so I don't have to reiterate over anything. Like, everything's iterated only once. So if you touch it, it iterates when you touch it, and if you don't touch it, it iterates when you don't touch it, not when you touched it. So you only get one iteration. And then it does everything by reference rather than going through the whole list. So if you hit a collider that's related to it, it knows. If you don't hit a collider that's related to it, it knows.
That's cool.
But because of that, the actual organization is much less intuitive from a like before. It was just a procedural list thing. You were just like, oh, obviously this is the I had this nice big block that was the menu button case, a nice big block that was this case, and now they're all like exploded into like these special special things. So so input over equals true. What's this else? This is if. So if it contains the mouse finger ID, do I do a removal here for the unpressed buttons? Yes, I do. Alright, I'm going to try changing it down here and see if this works. So what we're going to do is I'm going to break this out into two separate if statements. If input.type input.up equals, and we got this, and then finally we do input.down equals false.
Hey, Max.
Yes.
Apparently your possible address.
Yeah, who cares?
Yeah.
Of course it's on the internet. Check my website.
Oh, is it on
Yeah,
your website?
of course. Yeah, that's the address of Pushy Pixels Incorporated. Well, not incorporated. Sorry, we're not incorporated. It's Pushy Pixels LLC. So, but yeah. So yeah, if you check my business registry, that address is on there. If you check my website, I have to put the right information in there because that's ICANN rules. So of course anyone can get my address. Who cares? Come on over.
Say hello.
Yeah, say hi. Take a pilgrimage. So that didn't solve the problem, did it? In unpressed buttons. So somehow that's not getting into unpressed buttons. that's not going to be useful at all. Because that runs for everything. There's a menu button. Wait, do I have any menu buttons in the scene other than... If I set this to a hold button, what happens? Yeah, that's what I thought. So it's the only menu button. Menu button. Alright, so I hit it. And so stop generating. Oh, it's doing it. Why is it still firing then? Oh, input.down. I meant input.over is what I meant. So over in my case, because I needed some word for it, and Unity doesn't have a word for it because their word for it is to not have a word. Because if you just get button, then you get the state of the button. And so I needed a word for that, and so I used over for that. And I made the mistake of saying down instead. So now if I do this closer, it's still actually wrong. Because it doesn't come back to it. Okay, maybe I can't fix it there. Let's roll that one back. Save. Alright, I'm gonna play with my version control a little bit.
Version it.
I use Cornerstone. I like it. It's good on Mac. If you're on PC and you're using SVN, highly recommend Tortoise SVN. It's actually my favorite, but I'm on Mac, so I'm not using it.
What do you use on the Mac again?
On the Mac, I use Cornerstone. I've used Source Tree for Git. That's pretty decent, but it has some bugs, although it works better on Mac than it does on PC. Cornerstone only exists on Mac. It's pretty good for SVN. I think, does it support Git as well? I think it's just SVN. But as I said, if you're doing PC, you have Tortoise. That's awesome. You're lucky because it's amazing. So got all these stupid things. So PushyInput. Let's see what we got. Scripts, pushy button. Compare with head. I just want to see what I've actually changed since the last submission here. Make sure that I haven't done anything very screwy. Loading. You have a cube on your screen.
I do.
Just was warning you.
Just one cube.
That you have a cube. Oh, you have more than one cube now.
No,
you have
that's
a flat
a
cube.
quad.
Oh, it's a quad. Okay.
Because I don't like using the plane.
Oh, good.
It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, in most cases, it doesn't make sense to use plane. There are some cases. They're few and far between, but there are some cases.
In those cases.
If you have a game that you want to run really fast on mobile and you have a vertex lighting solution, you want the additional vertices so that the lighting doesn't look like crap.
Oh, okay.
There you go.
There's there we are. There's a reason to use a plane.
I added my notes. What did I change here? Use this. Oh, I got rid of the start function. Okay, that's good. I added support. Okay, that's right. I may have potentially solved this on the touch side, although I kind of doubt that I have. If input type equals menu button, and this is me doing more stuff trying to fix things. I think I'm going to actually revert most of this. I'm just going to keep my notes. Yeah, I'm just going to revert this whole thing because I don't trust the changes that I've made so far. So I'm just going to copy this, save it, who cares, and then we're going to go in and revert to my last version. Revert to last update. Discard changes. Now let's go back to my PushyInput And we'll put my notes back. I'm just going to leave the menu button bug unfixed right now, because I don't feel like digging through this thing. It'll be just too boring. Even though this really isn't about entertaining you guys right now. Honestly, this is just about keeping me on task. That's the reason. If I have an audience, then I'm not on Reddit. Like, seriously, like I might just be on Reddit right now instead of coding, and so you guys help keep me on task. So thank you all. So wait, where was my address shown?
Oh, he doesn't say that. So he said he PM'd you about it.
Huh.
So you can remove it, we'll hide it, apparently.
Oh, let me see. He PM'd me on YouTube, or?
I don't know. Just said PM.
Why am I not signed in?
Those are one of the great mysteries of life.
Now I'm signed in. Alright, inbox. Maybe it went through the... Oh, maybe it went through my email. It did. Better nerf the internet. Oh, you got it from my Whois. Oh, yeah. Of course it's in there. It has to be. It's legal. So, I mean, there's some ghosting solutions that they have that are workarounds, but honestly, I don't like those. Like, I think I can say turn on privacy or something like Gandhi.net, which is my domain host, but I don't want to because, like, technically, I think that's a violation of ICANN. But ICANN is so violated anyway, so. But yeah, so, yeah, not worried about it. That's why I try to be friendly, because I'm trying not to make enemies, because I don't want people to have my address.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck? I mean, like, they could just hate me. So I just generally try to be a nice guy. So, he'll probably bite me in the ass someday, but I'm not too worried about it.
Not at the moment.
No, too young to worry about that shit. I mean, stuff.
No, you mean shit.
Okay. There might be kids watching. I don't want... Now I'm going to have an angry adult find my address and kill me. So, yeah, no. That's not the way it works, I don't think. But it might. Woo! All right. So... Player character, pushy button... Anchoring. That's what I'll work on. That's what I was going to work on in the first place anyway. So I had this in the button manager. I'm debating on splitting it out. But I want this to be as easy as possible to use, so maybe I should just include it. I'll include it and split it out later if I need to. So we'll just uncomment this stuff. Uncomment. And I'm not going to have a native DPI because that's a stupid thing to ask people to know what their DPI is, even though it's pretty easy to calculate. I just want to ask what their screen size is, because then I can calculate their DPI. So one of the things I was considering doing, so the DPI information I could put into the PushyInput thing. So PushyInput is a singleton, and it's an auto-instantiating singleton, which means that if you call PushyInput and it doesn't have a PushyInput in the scene, it just magically makes one. But the problem with that is people who are typically using this might not put a PushyInput into their scene by themselves. And I've got some global options on there. You can basically drag it in and do choose what layer that your virtual buttons are on, and change the collision check distance for efficiency reasons. And so those are some of the global options. And one of the global options would also additionally be, I'm just going to put it in here for right now, the actual the size of your screen. So public float screen size in inches. I'm going to put, just in case, because we have a lot of people from Europe and they're going to hate me that I use inches here. Actually, maybe screen size here. We'll be fancy. Let's support the whole world, because US has a stupid system of measurement. Screen size equals, so we'll do a public float screen size, and we'll do a public bool. Actually, we'll do an enum. So hold on, this is in definitions. Public enum. Metric. I don't want to call it metrics. What do I want to call it? Units. Unit system. And we'll do what it's called Imperial for ours. That's
yes.
so funny. It's so funny to me that we're still using the old system that was invented somewhere else. They're like, no, this is stupid. Why are we still using this?
Yeah, we still use that, and we're proud of it for some reason.
I don't get it at all. Metric, and yet I'm still listening at first because I'm one of those stupid idiots that's just perpetuating this. But
America.
But I'm supporting metric because, dang it, I should support metric. So
I saw a map of how much of the world has adopted metric.
It's all of it. We're the only one.
There's a few other ones that don't use metric. Yeah, but it's few and far between.
So I'll have a public unit system. Unit system. I guess I'll just call it unit system. Unit system doesn't make much sense. What would be the word for if you wanted to say, if you wanted to group imperial and metric into one thing, what would you call them?
Measurement.
Measurement. Perfect. A measurement system. Measurement.
I mean, unit sounds right, but
here, let me show you what this is actually going to show on the thing here. As soon as it, there we go. Oh wait, I didn't save it. Save. Boop. So what should this? Unit system's fine.
Yeah,
actually, that looks pretty good.
Perfect.
That looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. It just looked odd when I didn't have it as a menu. That's why you have to just hit save and look at it sometimes. So we'll have a unit system, and we'll default the screen size. I'm going to default it to 15 inches because I'm egotistical, and my screen size is 15 inches. I don't know what I actually tried to find the most common screen size. I was doing research on this earlier to see if there was ways I could do this without asking people, because I like to not have to. I like to have good defaults. I like to have things just work. And I can find the average resolution easily, because that's really easy to pull from a computer. And so people have been doing this. Like Steam has statistics. All these people have statistics and stuff. Try to find the most average size of a screen in like inches or centimeters or something. Good luck. Good luck finding that data, because it requires sales data, which is way harder to come by because people are really, tight with sales data and they don't want to share that with people.
People are terrified.
And the other one, you can just like ask the monitor, it's like, hey, what's your resolution? Thanks, bye. But yeah. So I can't find a good default on that. So let me just see if that works. So if I go reset, this should reset to 15. No, reset. I didn't save, did I? I didn't. It's a non-saving night. Reset. Screen size is 15. And reset. Why is it? Oh, because it's a prefab. That's right. Apply. So screen size 15. Imperial. Actually, I shouldn't say Imperial because Americans are just too dumb. And because technically it's not imperial metric, it's actually two measurements. That's the reason that I'm actually changing
inches, meters.
Yes, and it wouldn't be meters.
Feet, meter.
What you guys in Europe land? Screen size.
Inches and.
Do they do it in centimeters? Is that what they usually use? Like
that seems
when you
right.
when you describe your screens, how big is your screen? Is it in centimeters? Is it in half meters? Is it in decameters? Is it in millimeters? What do you like? Centimeters makes the most sense. I'm just going to start centimeters.
Metric.
I'm just going to do centimeters. I'm assuming that that's the case because it's smaller. Because generally screen sizes are smaller than a meter, and generally you don't use floating point anywhere in the real world. So
that is true.
And I'll just call it units.
Yes, centimeters, I believe. I would think centimeters.
Yeah, I would think so too. That makes the most sense. Yeah, they could be fancy and do decameters, but no one uses decameters, so I don't think that's actually the case. Even though decameters, I think, would be a better metric for it, maybe? I don't know.
The most common screen size is 21.5.
Oh, where did you find that?
Well, that's what he says. I don't know.
Everyone I know has 21.5. That's cool.
Centimeters, although we are all colloquially use inches. Oh, so they still use inches.
I know, but I want to support everything. Whatever.
But I would say centimeters is the next logical one if you want to do it all in metric.
What does it call it? Units. And where's my units? Units. No, unit system was better. I'm going back. You can see how picky I am about my own stuff. It's really stupid. I have to actually really dial this back on the show because I will spend a whole episode just being picky, and I think I've done it before, and I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed when that happens, but when I'm on my own projects, man, I want things to be awesome. So so we have a unit system. We have screen size. You said 21? I'll do 21. 21.5.
Yeah. I mean, I don't
That's
know
a desktop common one, certainly. And it's probably more common to have desktop than it is to have a laptop, so yeah, that's probably right.
Sure, yeah.
I remember when I would play video games on a 13-inch black and white screen. So
green and black.
Green and black
Yeah.
for you. Wow. Wait,
Apple II.
Apple II. So yeah, that's actually fancier than I was talking about, like a TV. Like I was talking about that type of thing. Now you actually had that's the expensive thing. That's a monitor. That's like an 80-column display. That's awesome.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
Good times.
So, but now evidently everyone has a 22.5-inch screen on their desktop, or 21.5, whatever that guy said.
Apparently.
Huge peddler. Actually, he's
That
what
seems
that
about
guy.
right.
That's
Yeah,
not
I mean,
fair.
like,
that's totally not
that
fair.
seems about right. Like the LEDs
But that
and
is
LCD stuff.
totally not fair because he is like one of our biggest fans, and he's always in this thing, and I'm just like that guy. Psh, no, thank you, appreciate it.
UK we use feet, inches in the UK, inches.
Really? Okay.
Apparently they use inches to measure
Alright, well,
things in the UK. I did not know that. Screens
Interesting.
at least, not that kind of.
Yeah. Oh, that makes.
Yeah.
I guess that's true because they still use. Do they use miles? What's the one that they there's like
Well,
a few imperial things that they like still.
Driving miles an hour is
Yeah.
actually used still. I
Versus
know that because
kilometer,
of Top
yeah.
Gear. That's the only reason why. I
Oh
know
yeah,
that.
that's right. That's right. Yeah. That's. Did you know that that's the most popular TV program in the world?
That doesn't surprise me.
It doesn't surprise me either, but I thought that was really cool. Just British guys talking about cars. That's awesome.
Well, it's more than that.
Oh, it's way more than that. It's like the most overproduced show I've ever seen, and they do it on like a shoestring budget. So I have they just have really talented people just doing stuff on that show. It's
Well,
just
the best
awesome.
parts are when they have their like challenges.
Oh
and
yeah,
all that,
oh yeah.
so. They get more casual talk apparently.
More casual talk.
No, that's what I'm.
Yeah,
that's
exactly.
what we're doing right
Yeah.
now.
Well,
It's casual talk.
It's casual today. So, screen size. All right, so we got a screen size now. Now I can actually grab something from here. So, I'm probably gonna cache this. Cached. So that I can make my calculation for DPI. So let's in the start function that I was going to remove. I'm not going to actually remove it. I'm just going to remove this stupid junk from it. We're going to calculate our DPI. So we're going to have a public. We're going to have a hide and editor, hide and inspector, public, float. Yeah, let's do float. DPI. Actually, I guess it can't be a float. You can't have, well, yeah, I'll make it a float. It shouldn't make too much of a difference either way, but so we're going to set our DPI at the start here, based on the screen size and the resolution. So start, we get screen, oh wait, no. DPI, I'm actually going to call this default DPI or editor DPI.
Oh, and they use pints.
Oh, cool.
In the UK as well. Miles,
DPI,
pints,
and,
miles per hour. Yeah.
default DPI. Is that the default to be 160? Like LF?
So there's a question here about Unity. Oh, a random question.
Sure.
But how long have you guys been using Unity? How long did it take to get a level that you are comfortable with? Not long to get a level that I was comfortable with.
Yeah, I mean, and you're probably the more interesting case because like I had like a background in a whole bunch of random stuff before Unity, but you kind of started on Unity, right? Like you didn't really do you'd done some GL programming and stuff with Tim and stuff, right?
Yeah,
but it was
we made a quick and dirty little shooter. I remember you helped me with that.
Yeah.
And that was in C++. But no, I pretty much just went right into Unity and have been using it ever since. It's good. I like it.
Yeah. So in my case, so it's a weird question because it's really hard to tell what level you're asking about. Because the level I'm at, I'm really happy with, and I'm really fast with it. But I wasn't. But okay, so actually, here I'll give you exacting data. Ludum Dare. This is my history. Compo, I'll sign in. Where's my sign in thing?
It's right there. It's in a weird spot.
Dragfire. Password named Gribbly Fritz. Have to say something. It's not Gribbly Fritz, but I had to say something.
It could be Gribbly Fritz.
It could be Gribbly Fritz, except for it's pretty short for Gribbly Fritz.
Maybe Gribbly Fritz is a longhand for a shorthand word.
Well, yes, maybe. That's kind of like when I send emails to myself. I don't actually email myself my passwords. I email myself the hint to the password that's based on the pattern that I generated the password. But yeah, okay. So view all games. No, view my game. Well, view my game is not going to have anything because it's the latest. How do I get to my stuff? Let me just do, hold on. Ludum Dare Dragfire. There we go. There we go. All right, so this was my first project in Unity, right here.
Oh, Prison of Air?
Prison of Air. So this was released on August 19th to 22nd. So,
2011.
2011. So in 2012, in March, we started the show. So I was comfortable enough that I felt that I could start a show based on Unity in, August, September, October, November, December, January, February, March. In 7 months.
Yeah.
And if you've seen the first episodes, which you may have, you'll probably know that I probably wasn't ready to do the show at that point, but I did the show anyway, and I learned a lot from the show. And so now that's one metric. Another metric is my first project. I learned Unity and made a game, this game here, Prison of Air, in 48 hours. I had never used Unity before. That's not entirely true. I had opened it like 3 times in the past, and then got bewildered by the interface and closed it.
Wasn't the real story behind this like you were going to use the Cry engine because it just went open source?
Yeah, if you want the full story, what had happened was 2 days before this competition, my friend Justin, who I worked with on Proton Pulse, he wanted to do Ludum Dare, but he's an artist. He doesn't do the programming thing, and he claims that he's not a good programmer, and actually he's a great one, but he doesn't like programming, and I totally understand that. And so he wanted to do a project together, and the thing is, if I was using my own stuff, like the games I'd released before this, I made just using OpenGL, and my art pipeline for these games was literally drawing on a graph paper and then inputting points. I did it the same way that you would do it back in like the 80s if you were making a video game on like an 80-column display. Like this is how you would do it for making Asteroids art. Like that's how they did it. Or even pixel art like Mario Brothers was done on graph paper. I've seen pictures of their huge graph papers with Marios on them. That some some data input jockey, probably one of the designers, probably Shigeru Miyamoto, was in there going, okay, well, this pixel's red, and this pixel's blue, and this pixel's red, and this pixel's blue, and then there's Mario. So it's not very easy to work with another person, especially someone who doesn't want to deal with all of this stupid, like, back-breaking work of putting stuff in. And so I didn't have image input, I didn't have all this stuff, and so I needed an engine. And so at the time, CryEngine came out for free. The free version of it came out. And at the time, I'm not sure if this is still the case. Don't quote me on this and be like, oh, the engine sucks because X, because this was just right when they had started doing this. Mm-hmm. They required you to create an account, which was free, and to create a registration so that you could use the software. The problem was they encrypted the save files to your account, and you couldn't have the account open on two computers at the same time. It would check. And so, all of a sudden, we couldn't collaborate. So the plan was we were just going to use the CryEngine and it was going to be really cool because we were going to do something in 48 hours on an engine that had only been released to the public for like a couple days, and we thought it would be really cool. And in a few hours, we realized, yeah, we can't work with this because we're not going to be able to actually collaborate at all. We'd have to like share a computer, which virtually eliminates the ability to collaborate. So we were over at Jay's place, and he's like, you should try Unity again. He pushed me on. He had been pushing me for like 2 years, and I wish I just listened to him.
He really had too.
He had been pushing me for like years on this. He's like, Max, you would love Unity. You should do this Unity thing. And I'm like, I'm a programmer. I don't like Unity. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. And it didn't help that like their initial project wasn't Angry Bots. It was like this island scene thing. And actually, even Angry Bots is too complex. Like it should open up to like their 2D example is what they should do now, because people will be able to understand that it's not so complex that you can't learn it. Or even simpler, just like do a Space Invaders game. Just have like something shooting something else or something. So I was over at Jay's place anyway, so I figured he could give us support. And so I downloaded Unity, and I remember Justin's love affair started with it earlier than mine because he said, Jay was like, Unity supports everything. And he's like, oh, it supports everything, huh? And Justin is a little bit snarky, and so he dragged a Photoshop file into it. And he was fully expecting that to not work, and it totally worked. and so we were kind of impressed by that. And we made this project, and it was pretty fast. And then 2 days later, I think we finished, what is it called? It's called Alpha Blast. So Alpha Blast is this little project. And I can't hear my sound, so I'm probably going to be, like, overlapped with horrible audio. I'm just going to click it a few times and not talk, and then I'm going to discuss it. This is not Alpha Blast. Wait.
Alpha-Blast is what that one is.
Oh, I don't think I have this page up anymore.
That's possible. It's probably on the Pushy Pixels page, right?
No, the Pushy Pixels page is so screwed up right now.
Well, you can show it on the App Store, though, at least.
Yeah, I'll just show the App Store version. It's just this game. It's for kids. It just, you have fireworks that come up and you hit them and it explodes and the little girl says, yay, it's Justin's daughter. She's super cute. And she says the letter, and so you can kind of learn. It was mostly designed for distraction for small children, so like you got these little particle effects that have like letters in them and stuff. And we made that 2 days after and published it immediately after that. And so we literally had software that was making money using Unity a week after we had learned it. And so, which is pretty awesome. We probably jumped the gun on some things, and actually when I went back to the project later, I was like, oh wow, I did all of this wrong, and I like changed all the settings and made a new version of it. But it was so funny. It was like, oh yeah, that's why that looked so pixely. I didn't have the proper texture import settings here, and I know all this stuff now, and I didn't know it at the time. So, but yeah, so we got things up and running really quickly. So it depends on what you mean by comfortable with it. But like I was comfortable enough to teach in 7 months, but I also am kind of comfortable teaching, and I also use that as an excuse to learn myself. I know that sounds strange, to teach to learn, but you can do that. And that's probably more long-winded than anyone actually cared to actually hear about that whole story. But now you know.
And knowing is half the battle.
Indeed. So, I want this to be hiding the inspector as well, potentially. My mom's calling, and I'm ignoring her. So, I love my mom, but I am ignoring her right now. So, editor DPI equals. The editor DPI is going to be equal to. Actually, I'm going to make these private. I'm not going to make them hide in the inspector. I'm going to make them private because I don't want to actually access them as variables. I want to access them through a function call. Editor DPI. Actually, I might make them properties at some point too. No, I don't want to make them properties because then I have to worry about caching and stuff. I'll just make them private. We'll figure out what we do. Do it real time.
Do it live.
So editor DPI will be equal to the screen size. So we need pixels per inch, which would be so pixels per inch, which means per means divided by, which means that the pixels would be the amount of pixels corner to corner on the screen, which will be based on float pixels equals screen dot resolution, current resolution dot width, and we're using Pythagorean theorem, so a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So screen dot resolution dot width times screen dot resolution dot width plus, because remember, screens are measured corner to corner. People may not actually realize that, but they are. Actually, I think most people know that. I just figured I'd be explicit to say that, just in case. It's a bit of trivia that passed you by. Height. Actually, there's a math square thing, isn't there? Just math f dot square. No. Dot pow. Yeah. It's probably overkill, but at least I don't have to type, so it won't be such a long line. 2, and then same thing here. 2, we'll do pow. Pow is to power of, is what that means. And so it's just basically, this is just squaring it. And multiplying it by itself is also squaring it, which is what I was doing in the previous case. So we do that, we add those two together, and we then take the square root of that. So math f dot squirt. Boop. And this is not supposed to be there. There you go. So that's the pixels. And then so the editor DPI equals pixels per inch. This will be pixels divided by screen size, and if we'll have something up here, if unit system equals unit system dot centimeters, then we'll do a pre-conversion here. So wait, screen size is what I called it, right? Yeah, screen size. All right, cool. So we're not going to use screen size. We're going to create a new float. Screen size in inches equals screen size, and then if it's centimeters, we actually replace it with screen size in inches equals screen size times the conversion metric, which would be centimeters per inch, 2.54 centimeters, so we just multiply it by 2.54. Is there a more accurate conversion than that? Just feels like there should be more decimals than that. It's exactly, oh, it's now exactly 2.4. 2.54. Okay, so it doesn't have a whole lot of numbers at the end of it. Cool. So there we go, screen size in inches, and then we use screen size in inches instead of screen size here, and now it supports metric.
How about that?
So now we have an editor DPI. Now we need to actually be able to access the editor DPI. So public methods, we're going to add a public static void. Actually, let's go with my first idea, or my third idea, one of those ideas that we had at some point. So yeah, the editor DPI, the default DPI, and we're going to create a public float DPI.
I have a question of any advice for 3D coding. I'm using Unity and just want to know what I should work towards.
Learn linear algebra. That would be my first secret to success in 3D. Be comfortable with it. When I say learn linear algebra, I don't necessarily mean, like, it's not going to hurt you to do it. I don't necessarily mean go to Khan Academy and watch the linear algebra stuff. It will totally help you. But, God, I need to make a course. I need to make a course on linear algebra for programmers, for Unity people, because it's so useful. And people don't know it because no one bothered to take that math. And even the people who did bother to take it don't even know that it's super freaking useful, because generally when you take it, it's taught kind of as if it's a, what do you call it? A experimental form, like it's a non, what do you call it? Why can't I think of it?
I don't.
My words today aren't working too good.
Words are hard.
Yeah, they are. I'm going to say screen DPI.
Linear algebra and matrix math. Isn't that also another very important
I'll just DPI. Linear algebra, matrix math. Matrix math is useful, but honestly, the amount that I've used it in Unity is... How much matrix math have you used in Unity?
Very little, very little.
Like, the thing is, most of the matrix math happens behind the scenes in the way that you use the linear algebra stuff.
Yeah, I used to use matrix math when I was doing, like, OpenGL stuff.
Yeah, well, because you had to learn that. And actually, if you had spent long enough on the OpenGL... Let's say Unity never was made and you started going into it in earnest, you would have written your own vector library that did all the stuff for you. So the vector library handles most of it for you, though it's helpful to use it. I did actually use matrix once to create a skewed view frustrum, which is something that by default you can't make in Unity, but it's very easy to do by changing the screen matrix stuff. But yeah, so it's useful to know, but that's more of a if you want to know how it works under the hood.
Yeah.
And that's, again, when you learn linear algebra, you learn a lot of matrix math, and again, it's less about what you're learning on that and more about knowing when to use it. It's like Unity has a big old good calculator there, and you have to know when to use the calculator to solve word problems. It's not like school where they expect you to know exactly how the calculator makes the answers. You don't care how the calculator makes the answers. You just want to get the right answer for the problem that you're using the calculator to solve.
Yes. So,
public float DPI, and this will return... So how do we do these again? I'm going to have to look at my lower stuff here. Get set. There we go. So this will have... This is a property. We don't really do these on the show very often. So get... return if runtime platform equals editor, runtime platform, is there an editor? Oh, there's two editors. Why don't they just have a catch-all one too? Okay, whatever. Windows editor and Mac OS X editor. And so either this or Windows. Actually, I don't think that's the proper runtime. Oh, maybe it will be. We'll figure that out in a second here. So if it's that, we want to return editor DPI. And if else, actually I don't need an else because we've already returned. If screen.dpi equals 0. Actually, let's make it future-proof. Let's make this check first, just in case Unity gets really cool and figures out how to calculate DPI on everything. So if screen.dpi does not equal 0, then we check to see. Then we return screen.dpi. If runtime platform equals editor, then we return the editor DPI. And then finally else, we return the default DPI. Let's see if that compiles. Oh, whoops. It's not runtime platform. If application dot runtime, no. Runtime if current. Alright. Unity runtime platform. Application.platform. If application.platform there we go. Screen size, initials. Not include implicit. Oh. Definitely don't need double precision for 2.54, I would hope. So, alright, so it compiles and doesn't actually do anything different now. We've done all this just to set up something stupid. So now we have an actual DPI function that's somewhat functional. And now I'm going to go into PushyInput and actually change my DPI to my screen size to 15, because it is 15. And we don't want... What do we want the scale to be? So I'm trying to figure out how to organize this so it's actually easy to use and fun. So we want to anchor it. We want to adjust the anchor position via inches, and then we want to adjust the scale. The scale will be based on the initial scale, so we will do it this way that I was doing it before. So we'll do this. And then for anchored, so we don't want screen DPI here, we want to use native DPI divided by, wait, what's native DPI? Oh, that was my attempt to fix some things. We don't want native DPI, or do we want native DPI?
I don't know.
No, we don't. We just want... What was I doing here before? So this is meaningful to a certain extent, but it doesn't have an anchor point. Transform local scale, native screen, native DPI. This is something I got rid of, isn't it? Yeah, it is. Save this so I actually have a compile error to remind me. Local scale equals... Okay, so we're going to have to figure out the initial DPI, which means that I really should actually calculate this in awake on PushyInput, so I'm going to do that. So that way we know that we have it. So instead of using start, I'm going to throw this into awake, which is nowhere near start because I put it into my singleton section. Save that. Oops. Yeah, that's right. Oh, I know what I'm doing. Okay, now I'm going to organize it. I'm going to have this call, because I don't like the fact that this is my singleton section. I'm going to call another function from here. I'm going to call initialize. All right. Initialize, and then we'll create this somewhere else. Initialize called in awake, used for awake style method, used for awake, used instead of awake because awake is used for is organized in the singleton section. And we'll throw this into initialize. The reason I want it here is because I want to make this mostly work in without having to change anything. Though optimally, the input manager should probably be set to run before anything else in the script execution order. So now we can safely call that. So initial scale. So we're going to get the initial DPI. No, we don't want the initial DPI. DPI shouldn't be changing.
I was looking up about DPI, found this note that the screen DPI is only valid for mobile devices.
Yeah, it's not even 100% valid for all mobile devices. But that's the reason that that's the reason that we are making, that's actually the reason I had to make all of this other stuff here. Yeah. This is so that we have a replacement for in case screen DPI returns 0, which it does. So that's the reason we need one for the editor, so that we can have something that fits thumb size on the screen if you want to do testing on the screen. And then we need a default in case there is a device that is not supported by screen DPI that you're deploying to. So
that makes sense. Oh, excuse me.
So I'm figuring out a native DPI. Dang it, this may not work the way I thought it was going to work. So the DPI doesn't change. I'm overthinking something somewhere.
That is possible.
How's the comment section going? Any new here? Let me just check on mine here. How do I get to this? Here we go.
It's right here.
Watch page. All right. Can't post link. Was looking up DP. Okay. Okay. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah, that's why I said that.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Never mind. Don't know why. Oh, I know why. It's because I'm just sitting here not doing anything. So I was trying to put the fans into the spotlight rather than me. It didn't work.
That's okay.
So I need some meaningful default. So the size of the thing shouldn't be based on... No, it has to be based on the DPI. That's specifically why I need to do this. So to compare it to the scale... scale. I need to figure out how to generate a scalar based on DPI versus whatever it has in the editor when you're not on a device. Which means I need that input manager to have meaningful values saved somewhere. I may have to get fancy and actually make an editor window and some stuff like that. So where would I save that metadata so that it would be useful? So you're always going to be working in an editor to start things. And I don't want people to get screwed up if they are on different devices with different... So you'd have to have a master device, which would be one of your editors, but it could be multiple computers. So if you're checking sizes, you have to check on either the goal device or a master editor. So I need some way to get the editor DPI Oh, yeah, I'll just use the editor DPI. I'll just make that public. Alright, so if I make the editor DPI public, then it will calculate based on the screen size. So we'll grab the editor DPI. Whoops, input, PushyInput dot editor dot, did I not save? I saved. Where's my editor DPI? Oh, yeah, these are in the instance, so it would be public. How am I accessing these normally? It's normally through statics. Alright, so I would need a public Static float editor DPI. Okay. Private float editor DPI. And what we'll do is public static float. We'll do static here as well. DPI. Why is that giving me a problem? Oh, because of this probably. Public static float editor DPI. Get return instance.editor DPI. And it needs to be public, I guess. Public. Hide in editor, hide in inspector, whatever it is. So instance.editor editor DPI. So of course it still contains that, so we want this to actually be underscore editor DPI. And the static one can return instance.editor DPI, else return default DPI. I'll just use the underscore here, whatever. Doesn't really matter either way. I worry too much about code aesthetics sometimes, and yet I make a code that just looks so ugly to me sometimes.
It happens.
So we need to change this in the initialize editor DPI. Save. See how compiler's doing. Still getting stuck up on this, so now I should have input.editor DPI and .dpi. Yes, I've got both of them. Excellent. And DPI was able to be converted just fine. Although it shouldn't have been. This should provide an error, so I actually do need to do instance.editor DPI there. That'll work. No. Instance.underscore editor DPI. Or I could just return editor DPI. Boop. Alright. So editor DPI versus PushyInput.dpi. So as the editor, it'll be the same and it won't actually scale. Perfect. If it's something else, it will scale based on the way that you set it up in the editor. Perfect. I throw this into here.
It's a comment saying, hey, is AS3 SFXR CC0?
SFXR, I don't think it's specifically Creative Commons, but I do think it is public open source. So original, oh wait, I think it's actually GNU. Dang it. SFXR. So the original SFXR was released under MIT Free Software License. Sweet. So the original is free software license. However, ASFXR.
AS3.
Is it AS3? SFXR? SFXR. This one, I think, is actually new. GNU. Let's find out. This one's under Apache License 2.0. So if you use if you base your stuff based on the original version of XFXR, it's under MIT, which is one of the best software licenses in the world. It is very, very free, and I think it's basically like CC's attribution. Like if we go here, let's see, MIT free software. Actually, I don't even think it's attribution. I think it's CC0 equivalent, but it only applies to code. And MIT had this a long time ago. So, free software license. What is the MIT license? So, you have to include the license terms. And the license terms is you can do whatever the heck you want with it as long as it has license terms. And which includes the copyright. So it's basically like CC0. It's like CC attribution is what it's like. Now Apache license is you can redistribute as long as license is intact. You have to say when you've modified a file. If it includes a notice, you have to include the notice. So it's attribution if there's an attribution notice. And you must retain source form, all copyright notices, excluding those notices that do not pertain. So it's a little bit more verby, but it's a very similar license. So I'm sure that there's a way that you could use it. You will have to do some attribution stuff, and you'll have to ensure that the license is included with your use of the code. But from what it looks like is, if you're using either software license code, you can make a derivative work just as long as you have some information about the original copyright. Mm-hmm. And in the case of the Apache license, you may have to specify what you have changed. So,
okie dokie.
And then you could release that under a third software license and then confuse everyone.
That sounds like a good plan.
Yeah. So, I don't think there's any requirement that the license be compatible in Apache. There might be something like that. The GNU is actually, that's the reason I do not like the GNU license, the GNU license, is because there's a situation. Oh, are we nearing 2 hours? We're nearing 2 hours, aren't we? I need to actually cut it off before then, otherwise YouTube does bad things to my videos. Yeah. So I'm going to be wrapping this up soon. Let me see at least if I got something with the anchoring system working. So if I hit play, this is not accessible because... Copy asset. Let's qualify it with a type name instead. So maybe underscore editor DPI. Non-static member. I could probably make this static. Am I digging myself into a hole here? I want this to be static. How did I do it for my other static stuff? I returned... Did I have any static properties that used instance dot? Oh, all of them were in methods. I probably can't do it in a property. That's probably my problem. Yeah. So in order to do it in a property, this value has to be declared as static, which will probably cause other errors, but we'll go with it. And then, here, let's just save this for right now and see what we get. Default DPI also needs to be static. I don't actually have to hide an inspector if they're statics, because I don't think they show up in the inspector anyway. That might be good enough, maybe. And yeah, so now theoretically, if I run this, so I don't think I have the anchoring information set up on these things yet. So I'm going to get rid of the positioning stuff because that's not actually done yet. And we'll see if the scaling stuff actually works. So I'm going to hit play. And my thumbs are that big. I'm putting my thumbs over my screen. I know you can't see that. and the buttons are that big. So let's see if they end up the same size if I deploy this to my iPhone. And then we'll deploy it to my iPad and see if they're the same size as well. In theory, they should be.
In theory.
In theory. Alright, so I plug this in, I close this, I hit save scene, save project, build and run.
Yeah, wow, it's right about at 2 hours, isn't it?
Yeah. The actual stream does, yeah, it still hasn't been quite that point yet, so I just need to make sure that that number does not exceed 2 hours. Because the reason is I like to edit down the outside portion of the show. Actually, we have to wrap it up in 5 minutes because I should be wrapping it up right now. I'm just going to check this one thing and wrap it up. But basically, YouTube has limited capabilities if you have a file that's over 2 hours, what it can do and can't do. Like, you can't actually use their editors, you can't modify things. If you want to work with it, you kind of have to download it and re-upload it a different way. So
that's kind of crappy.
Yeah. Linking.
That's exciting.
So exciting. Oh, generate DSIM. I don't have that turned off. No. I'm so happy someone told me that I can turn that off, and it's so great, but I don't have it turned off right now. Because it saves all of this time that I would be sitting at this phase that says generating DSIM file, and I pretty much never use the DSIM file for anything, so.
Put the copyright info into your game. Any advice on a way to do that?
You put it in your credits or in your instruction manual. That's how you do it. So that means if you have a game, you have to now all of a sudden those credits that you didn't want to make because there's only one person involved in it, you have to make credits. It's kind of like how in your game you have credits for the CC attribution stuff for your music.
Yes.
So. And likewise for what's that simulated sports like adventure called? That Man Mountain game that also uses music from that same guy. Mount Your Friends. Mount Your Friends.
Mount Your Friends. I don't know how I got on Reddit.
Yeah, but you did. You're there. See, you got on Reddit because you're not in front of this screen here. Your screen's not being broadcast to the world.
This is also true.
So, does this look like it's actually the same size, or am I completely off? Oh, I probably have to do one more compile on this. Let me fix that problem here real quick, so I don't have to worry about that extra build setting. All and dwarf, just dwarf. There we go. So I don't think I actually set a setting properly. Because I need to actually say that all of these are indeed anchored. There we go. So we've got play. Does it resize? Good. It doesn't resize. And we save scene, save project, make one more build and run. Be faster this time. So now we have a case for what it looks like if unresized, so at least I can find out if it's going to be bigger. It should be bigger. They're probably going to overlap each other, which is fine because I don't have the movement anchoring stuff done yet, but
I don't know why I'm looking at this.
If that guy's got a lot of points for that, I need to actually make something like that because I know more about video games than like
No, you got,
the
like,
universe.
478 comments, 7,058 karma, 4,099 downvotes. So.
All that freaking karma. That delicious, delicious karma. Yeah, we're still good on time.
Can you put us in the credits? Yeah, you can. I would say.
Yeah,
right?
you can totally put. We would be honored.
Yeah,
we would be honored. Thank you very much.
I would. Anyone?
If you put a link to us, do www.cookingwithunity.com. That links to our YouTube page directly.
Yep.
And that's what we care about the most. Well, it definitely did something. Looks like it did it wrong. I probably have the numbers in the wrong order. Yeah, let me try one more. I swear we have time for one more.
Do we?
We have time for one more.
We're cutting it very, very close.
I know we are. I don't care. If we get cut off at the end, this will not be the end of the world. So let's try pushy input DPI divided by editor DPI. Save one more time. Build and run. When I was working on a project in the past at a certain large company that I used to work at, we had build processes that would sometimes take hours.
Yeah, they did.
And so iterating was horrible. it's like, oh, we fixed that bug. It's like
this build is broken.
Yeah, it's like we fixed that bug. It's like, when will we have a new build? 2 hours from now. And so, as much as I complain about this taking like a whole minute to do, it's so much better than like 2 hours. Can you imagine not knowing if your error was fixed for 2 hours? It also creates bad habits because people start fixing multiple things at once because you don't want to just fix one thing and then submit it because then you find out that you broke it. So you just fix a lot of things and then you break multiple things in subtle ways that you don't find out until later.
Which is exciting.
Yeah, it's super exciting. And that's why we have testing departments.
Yes.
All right, yeah, we're cutting it too close. So I'm just going to say like goodbye at the end and hopefully you'll hear it.
I'll say goodbye in advance.
Yeah, goodbye in advance. We love you guys. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for tuning in. Oh my god.
Oh, that's too big. So something's wrong. Yay. Well, one of my calculations is off.
All right.
Exciting night.
Cutting it off?
Cutting it off.
Wrap it up.
Thank you guys for watching. Later. Refresh. Later again.
Continually saying later.
Later.